560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Wealth Health Radio with Joe Murphy, Sundays, noon to 1. Learn more online at mwmfinancial.tax.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Good Monday morning. Amy Jacobson here. Chris Kroc in for Dan Propp this week. Dan is at the Masters. Oh, schwanky. I don't know if you know, but he's obsessed with golf. It's the one constant in his life. It's his desire to hit the little white ball down the fairway.
Why not just stop hitting it and just let it sit there? Why are you going after it?
No, because that's the whole purpose of golf. So he's at the Masters watching the practice round. So
Fun.
Good for him. Have you ever been there?
No, I've not been to the Masters, but it's back in the day I used to watch it so I could sleep, do an afternoon nap to like golf.
It is very calming, isn't
tennis.
it?
Yes.
It's like very calming. And then
absolutely,
if you go on the production trailer, it's
probably all sleeping,
I mean, camera, why are they dropping F-bombs? I have never seen anything. I went to my first golf tournament. Phil Mickelson was playing. Gosh, he was just straight out of ASU, and it was at Tucson National, like in the 90s. And I worked for CBS at the time in Tucson. And, you know, everything was calm and great. And then I went in the production trailer, and I thought, oh, my God. I walked out of there like, oh, my blood pressure just went up. Holy cow. That's not what we know.
They should have that playing while you're watching the golf. No. That would be entertaining.
Camera, zoom in. It's just out of control screaming. It was crazy. So they would not let me roll any video of, because I was a one-man band back then.
That's great.
Wouldn't let me take any shots.
I remember that.
Oh, did you? Were you a one-man band?
In
Where?
fact, one of the stories that you picked for today was the houses where they're encouraging people to move into or come into Illinois or whatever, bribe them. It was from WGEM TV in Quincy, and I was at Western Illinois University in the mid 90s, and I would drive an hour and a half, 2 hours, chain smoke and listening to the Stones, and drive all the way out to WGEM. I did a one-man band thing, came back, edited it, and I told my wife, I called her back at Western, and I said, hit record on the VCR, and she would record my story that would air.
Oh, my goodness. That is so funny. So you were married when you were at Western?
No, I wasn't married. We were dating. We were girlfriend, boyfriend, but she was at her dorm, and I was at my dorm.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would drive to Cedar Rapids from Iowa City, and I worked at KGAN, where the news comes first. I always love the slogans that, you know, people matter first, or we care more than they do. I mean, their slogans were just hysterical.
When I was in the Quad Cities, right out of college, KWQC TV6. TV6 cares for you.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one. I should look back in my photo albums to see all the slogans for news things. But anyway, Chris Kroc is sitting in for Dan this next few days. So thank you for joining us. But in all your travels, you never made it to Market 3, did you?
No.
Like this chick did, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, can I tell you something? As you probably know, we are now market number 4 in Dallas, where I did a talk show for 15 years. So,
Wow, you guys are market 4?
Yeah. By the way, you guys.
What are we now?
This is not an exaggeration. This is total truth. We're adding 100,000 plus to the metropolitan area here per year, which means another 10 years we'll have 1 million. We will overtake Chicago as the DMA in under 20 years from right now.
Wow.
Because this is low tax, freedom. I can carry my weapon wherever the heck I want, except for a handful of places. There is when I drive home to Chicago with my family, you lose your rights slowly the closer you get to Illinois. I have reciprocity as a concealed carry holder, which you don't need to do in Texas anymore, open carry, but constitutional carry. But then when I go into Oklahoma, reciprocity. Then when I go into Missouri, for the most part, yes, reciprocity. I cross that border, and I have that gun in my car, and it's not locked up and everything out of the magazine and totally unchambered and locked in the way back, I'm going to jail, because this state that I'm talking in right now, my hometown, it's a freaking disgrace. Sorry, but I can go forever. Sorry.
Well, and they probably would arrest you as opposed to gangbangers who are making people's life.
Yes, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah. Well, one thing, so Channel 5 is located in Streeterville, and I never, when I started back there, the Kraft building was there, and they sold it to the city of Chicago for $1, and that's where Major Accidents was out of. And then the rest was vacant land. And then they built the AMC theater, and then they built another high-rise, another high-rise. And I never thought in my life that fellow coworkers or former coworkers would feel scared going to or leaving work. But that's what's happening because they have these teen mobs, these meetups that are taking place. We've had 2 so far this year. Thank goodness the weather was bad this weekend because whenever it's warm out, that's when the kids come out and play.
That's law enforcement for Chicago.
Pardon? Weather. Well,
that's it.
There's something to be said.
Not the authorities, though. That's what I'm saying,
Yes.
No.
But with more on this, because he's trying to find a solution, Second Ward Alderman Brian Hopkins joins us again on AM 560. Good morning, Alderman. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Amy. Good morning, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so to try and stop these teen takeovers, you're proposing an 8 p.m. curfew in Streeterville. And where it is at, because we've had curfews before. We have a 10 o'clock curfew, but why would 8 o'clock be any different?
Yeah, well, there's an argument to be made that it really won't help, and I'm not presenting it as a miracle solution, that's going to stop this from happening, but it is a relatively small step in the right direction. And I can tell you, I was out there. I was embedded with the police a couple of weeks ago when the incident happened Friday with the 300 teens taking over Streeterville. And shortly after 10 p.m., I heard the incident commander come on the radio, on the police radio, and he said, it is now past 10 p.m. We're going to start enforcing the curfew. He issued the order to the patrol officers, start enforcing the curfew. I just happened to be in front of a 7-Eleven when that order went out, and I saw a number of police officers pull up in a van, get out, and took 6 teenagers into custody immediately. And I watched the remaining group disperse because they saw what was happening. And by 10:45, the incident was over. This incident started around 7. So, again, I'm not going to claim that this curfew is, a miracle solution and it solved everything. But in that instance, it did contribute to finally ending an event that caused mayhem, chaos, violence, including one shooting incident that had been going on for 4 hours, and it helped stop it. So why wouldn't we do this? Why wouldn't we make this one simple change? Instead of waiting until 10 o'clock to start enforcing the curfew, let's start doing it at 8 o'clock, and it could potentially end these events earlier.
Well, here's Mayor Johnson. This was his response. And I mean, this man does not fail to surprise me on a daily basis with his ignorance and his, lack of leadership. But this is what he said about these teen takeovers.
It's not like this is happening every night, every weekend. One is too many. Just like one 15-year-old having access to a gun is too many. That's what the collective work of our city has to be a part of, is ensuring that we're creating not just accountability, but opportunities.
Did you get that? It's not like this is happening every night. It reminds me of the Tren de Agua gangs in Aurora, Colorado. Oh, they're just taking over 2 buildings. I mean, one night is too much. Don't you agree?
I do agree. In fact, the CWB Chicago website counted the number of these, large group teen takeover incidents. And, there's no clear definition for when one occurs and when one doesn't. It's kind of like it when you see it. But they went back to 2012, looked at their coverage. They documented 45 incidents like this with large numbers of teenagers taking over, violence and retail theft, other crimes being committed at the time. 45. That's a staggeringly high number. And if we don't do anything, there's going to be 45 more. I mean, it's not going to stop by itself. I think we know that. And listening to the mayor's quote, I get the sense that he immediately knew what a foolish thing that was that he said. That, it's not like it happens every night. But one is too many. That was kind of his way of trying to walk that back. But, it really is a Freudian slip, if you will. It indicates his lack of concern for this. There's so much more we could be doing if we had mayoral leadership. We don't. That can't be a coincidence. It can't be an accident. It's an intentional decision to not do the things that are necessary that can help stop these incidents.
Alderman Hopkins, Chris here. And, okay, so the mayor is attacking businesses, saying he wants them to step up. I'm seeing a Japanese fusion lounge. We're helpless. We don't know what to do. People are showing up there, and she owns a business across the street, a restaurant. They're constantly standing, causing trouble right in front of our restaurant, in front of the AMC River East 21 movie theater. Also, you got a woman who's afraid at East Illinois Street and North McClure Court. There's mobs of them. They have no regard for their lives and safety. They try to get into her building one time. Here's the question. The mayor is saying it's the business's fault, which is a freaking lie. Here's my question for you. Who is taking on the parents, which is what the root of the cause is? The mayor says, we need to find the root of the cause. I know what it is. It's called mom and dad ain't there. It's called no godlessness in the family, out of wedlock parenting. So my question to you is, since everybody's talking about the root cause of with the mayor and such, who's taking on the parents, which I view as the root cause, and why are they afraid to go after the parents?
Yeah, at this point, nobody is doing that. To answer your question, there's no movement in that direction. There is now some discussion within the state's attorney's office of a potential policy where you could prosecute a parent or guardian or someone in a household that provides a minor with a firearm, with a weapon that is then used in a crime, which of course is pretty much what happened in the Highland Park 4th of July shooting, where, the gun that the shooter used was alleged to have been provided by his father, by his family. And there was no hesitation to prosecute in that case. So, there's precedent to do that, but in order to do that, and I can sympathize with the prosecutors, it's not an easy prosecution. It's not easy to prove that. Who knows what goes on in a household? Who knows which family member? It isn't even always the parents. In this case, oftentimes it's grandparents, it's aunts, or, some other responsible adult who may be the one who has the most authority over that child. How do you prove that? It isn't easy. We've never tried it, but again, the state's attorney is looking at that now, especially when it comes to illegal weapons that find their way to the streets of Streeterville in these incidents.
So why wait for a curfew, though? Can't you pick them up for disorderly conduct? Yes, you can. And that's, another tool to make arrests when you could pick them up for jaywalking. There's a variety of criminal acts that take place during these large group incidents, especially when they spiral out of control. The problem there is the police are reluctant to do it. First of all, you're arresting a juvenile, so, pretty much nothing's going to come of it anyway. And the amount of paperwork and processing time and everything that goes into that, now you've taken at least one, oftentimes two, especially if it's a female you're picking up. You're taking those two police officers off the street. You're taking them out of the situation where they are desperately needed because we're vastly outnumbered when these incidents happen. So there's a real downside to making an actual arrest. The curfew situation is not an arrest. We're not arresting them. We're not fingerprinting them. We're not mugshotting them. We're simply taking them into protective custody, which you could argue is as much for their safety as anything, since, they're the ones getting shot when the bullets start flying in these crowds. So we take them to the police station. We hold them there until a responsible adult who is responsible for them comes and gets them. And that's it. They're released. There's no follow-up. They don't have to come to court. There's no charges. It just ends the situation. So it's easier. It's easier for them and it's easier for us. And the goal is to stop these events once they start to gain momentum. And it's much easier to do that when you can have a more efficient process of pulling them off the streets and out of a volatile situation.
Alderman Hopkins, I wanted to ask you about this too. Looking at the mayor's, it just floored me. And of course, it's classic him when he said, there are investments the city can make, and there are things I know that the business community, quote, they want to do more. We need them to do more. Is it the business's job in your district, in Streeterville, is it the business's job to handle these freaking out-of-control kids who are raised by parents who don't take care of their kids and give them discipline?
No, there's very little that the businesses can do, especially when these situations start to happen. Some of them actually have taken to locking their doors. The local residential buildings, they've now trained all their door staff that they go into lockdown. You know, when they see it happening, they shut the doors, they lock down, they notify their residents. Chaos on the streets again, folks. Stay home. You know, and the businesses you mentioned, the Japanese restaurant that was interviewed in the article. You know, they're in a precarious situation because they're right in the heart of it. They've got customers. They've got people in their restaurant when this happens. So what do?
And they need to lock the customers out.
Well,
right?
actually,
They lock them in.
Okay.
We heard from a woman who was locked in. She called my office the next morning to tell me she got locked in a convenience store on Illinois Street because there was mayhem outside. Several teenagers were trying to get in. The manager basically kicked them out, and they stood on the sidewalk and got some friends to join them and threatened violence to the manager, basically saying they're going to kill him if they get back in. And they were trying to break into the locked door. The customers in this restaurant had to take shelter, hiding, you know, cowering behind the shelves, waiting in terror to see if these armed individuals were going to successfully break down the door and potentially kill the manager, as they were threatening to do. So you want to tell that business it's their fault? You know, what are they supposed to do? You know, many of them have hired security, but in the incident in question, I watched a 7-Eleven get robbed by about 20 kids that went in. And, you know, the security guard, who really looked like he was, you know, he's past retirement age. He's just there for a part-time job. Now he's got 20 strong young males robbing the 7-Eleven of you know, potato chips and soft drinks and everything else. He just basically put his hands up and walked away. He's like, you know, I'm making $10 an hour here. I'm not going to risk my life because you're stealing a bag of Cheetos. So there was nothing that a security guard could do. And we told the businesses, well, you better hire security. So they do, and that's what comes of it. You know, no. The answer is no, it's not the business's responsibility. It's the municipal government, it's the police, it's law enforcement.
Well, in 2022, then Mayor Lightfoot, she enacted a 6 p.m. curfew at the Bean at Grant Park. So minors have to be accompanied by an adult on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, starting at 6 p.m. And Mayor Johnson doesn't want to do that for Streeterville. And it's proven to work because there haven't been any, you know, teen meetups or shootings outside of the Bean. So what other aldermen are backing you for this?
We'll find out, Amy. Yeah, I'm calling for a vote. I've certainly had some of my colleagues have called me to tell me they are fully supportive of my efforts. They're going to be with me. And others have not. I think either way, it's going to be a close vote. We'll have to see. Wish me luck. You know, it's a controversial topic, and if you saw the Tribune story from yesterday, one of my colleagues who represents the area around 31st Street Beach talked about some of the steps he has taken to stop this from happening, which it has. There's been shootings at 31st Street Beach in recent years. There's been large group incidents. You mentioned the weather being a factor, Amy. You're exactly right. You know, on a hot summer night, 31st Street Beach was a powder keg the last couple of years. Horrible. So he hired additional security, a private security firm to come out there and supplement the police and the Park District staff. They did a perimeter barrier, basically, so that, you know, to limit the way you could get in and out of 31st Street Beach, mandatory bag checks and ID checks. They took all these steps, and it seems to have worked. And yet he's opposed to my curfew. So I'm like, wait a minute. You know, you were allowed to do some things in your ward to help stop it, and you're not going to support me to do the things I need in my ward. So
when are you guys taking a vote? When is this?
It'll be at the next city council meeting a week from Wednesday.
Okay. And real quickly, Inn of Chicago that was housing illegals or migrants, whatever you want to call them. What's the latest on that? Is it still open? Has it been shut down?
No, it's currently mothballed. It's in mothball status. I'm adamantly opposed to it being reopened to anything other than what it was, which was just
Tourists.
A traditional affordable hotel. Yeah, it was an affordable hotel close to Michigan Avenue, and it serves a nice purpose. I'd like to see it go back to there, but we're not sure what the owner wants to do. He made an obscene amount of money renting it to the city for this purpose And we hope that never happens again. So for right now, it's just unused.
Okay. All right. Alderman Hopkins, Alderman of the 2nd Ward, thank you so much for joining us. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Business owners, now's the time for your business to make the move to a locally owned business bank. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that you don't have to look far. Signature Bank was founded in Chicago with the